they've
Well,
changed the recording to like go live, and I was like, is that the same? Does that mean you're recording?
why do
Tell me
companies
more.
do this? Like, nobody wanted this. Nobody asked for this.
Well,
Just
even
leave it
now it
alone.
says live at the top. Like, I'm assuming that means it's
Oh,
recording.
I don't see that, interestingly, because you're the
Uh,
editor,
I
you're
think
the
I
like the
just got
big
here first.
El
Yeah,
Jefe. I just see a timer. Like it's running, it's counting up.
so
But
that's good. I
yeah.
think it must be.
I see the little recording icon at the top of my browser tab as well.
Okay, so that's
So
good.
I
Yeah. We just
think
need to trust it.
it's happening.
I know, and I don't
Yeah.
want your help how-to videos. I just want to crack on. I don't want
Yeah.
to sit and learn.
Tell you what, don't change things and then I won't need your how-to videos. Just keep doing it the way I've always done it.
And you know when they do the little pop-ups around the screen? I don't
Oh
know.
God.
No,
It's
no,
because they're
get out.
so pleased with themselves, but it's just devs trying to make themselves valuable.
I just
Sorry.
have no
That's a
time
little
for it,
industry
Cara.
secret there. Because if it works and you don't change it, you don't need devs. So it's not great.
100%. I hear you.
Mm.
Shall we start?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Hi, Cara.
Hi, Vicky. How you doing?
I am good. Yeah, I'm feeling alright today. It's I had a good mental health walk this morning,
Lovely.
and you know when you're just feeling like, you know what, life might be okay.
Like just a little,
Things are going to be all right.
feeling a little limber, feeling a little happy. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, which is new. Hasn't happened for a while, so yay, that's great. How are
Aw.
you?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. As you know, I'm a little behind the eight ball this morning because for whatever reason, I sort of switched off on what time, but I went to see Othello at Tintern Abbey last night with my friends,
Oh,
and it
come
was
on.
outstanding. And it was like
Come
cool,
on.
and the swallows were flying overhead, and it was these guys called the Lord Chamberlain's Men, and they were
Okay.
badass. They did madrigals at the beginning and at the end. It was so good. It was so good.
I love it. Right up my street. Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
worth seeing.
And I love Othello as well. It's one of my faves.
Yes, I had never seen it before, but like
Mm.
I had, kind of a story from it's just popularly known. So I had an idea of what it was about, but seeing it all play out was really, really good.
Yeah. I did a pub quiz this week, which was Swift or Shakespeare.
Oh,
It's a classic one. So you pop a quote, and then you have to guess if it's Taylor Swift or William Shakespeare, and that's quite people like that, I think. So yeah.
oh, I thought you meant Swift like is it Jonathan Swift, like another author? And I was thinking
No, no,
I would
no.
be so
The
sunk.
queen that is, the world dominator that is. So
Two generational talents head to
yeah,
head.
exactly.
I love
And it
it.
is quite hard actually. Like it is it's not as easy. I threw like some really obvious ones in just to make people feel better, but like it is quite a challenge, you know.
I love that you are the office quizmaster as well. So are you doing a weekly quiz at work? Is that what's going on?
No, it's annual, once a
Oh,
year,
okay, okay.
the big summer quiz. And
Uh,
yeah, I am a little bit protective over the role as well. Part of me is like, I'm sure they're going to try and pry it off me because I've done it 2 years on the trot. And I don't want to. And which is weird. I don't know why. This is so needless to be protective. Why do you care?
I guarantee you, unless there's somebody who just has a real penchant for being a quizmaster, if you are doing it, everybody else is just going, oh, thank God, we can just
Yeah,
relax and have
maybe.
fun. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I hope so
enjoy.
because I am weirdly protective over it, which is I don't know why. It surprised me. So, but yeah, it went well. I think it went all right. People seem to like it, so that's
Lovely.
the main thing. Would you like to hear a story, Cara?
Yes, please.
Fabulous. I'm quite excited about this one. It's quite niche, but we'll get there. Got a little intro for you. In 1968, Hull was dubbed the Sad City after 3 trawlers vanished into the freezing Arctic, taking 58 men with them. But out of the grief rose the Headscarf Revolutionaries, 4 ordinary Hessel Road women who refused to sit down and weep. They faced death, blacklisting, and broken rules to storm Westminster. It started as a desperate fight to save their husbands and sons, but along the way, these working class women ended up discovering themselves, changing British history and rewriting who they were allowed to be.
Oh my God, like
It's so cool.
I can't wait. I was saying to you before we started, I know nothing about these people. I'm so interested to learn. And how do you go from suffering incredible tragedy to somehow having death threats and being in jeopardy yourself? Like, help them, help these women. So tell me everything, please.
Well, and there's loads of articles about this because it's such recent history. So 1960s Northern Britain.
Yeah.
There's a few local newspapers in there. The Hull Daily Mail, Tate.org. I've got a lovely article about life at that time. A sprinkle of BBC articles and Wikipedia articles, and this really good witness history episode that was shown in 2019. It's only 10 minutes, but it's really good. So yeah, just to start off with where we are today. So we're in the 1960s, not too far away. We're in England. If you think of Britain in the 1960s, you often think miniskirts, Beatles, swinging 60s, like this kind of cultural revolution after the Second World War. But in the north of England, that's very different. That's quite a London viewpoint that is projected around the world. But in the north of England, they're still very much in the industrialisation phase. It's kind of the heartbeat of the north. Many households are still tied to the coal industry, textiles industry, shipbuilding industries that we don't really recognise today. Even this week, British Steel was actually taken back into public ownership to try and save it. So this is like a Britain of time gone by in a way, really.
As a an immigrant, would it be, I don't know enough about this, but would it be fair to say that this is that point where those industries are starting to collapse and be replaced by more modern alternatives? So that like financial impact on those areas where those were traditionally, like, your dad worked there, your granddad worked there, and now suddenly there's no job for you. Are we in that period here?
100%. So that turning point came in the 70s, and this is late 60s. So
Oh,
very much on the cusp.
like the writing's on the wall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pre Thatcher, but very much writing on the wall. Um, because for decades, North England has relied on coalfields, ironworks, shipyards as their primary source of employment. Like you said, when you leave school, you pretty much have secured a job.
Yeah.
That's what your dad did. But like you said, in the 1960s, foreign competition was just coming through, forcing towns to kind of think differently and forward thinking and things like that. However, much of the working class population still lived in these cute little Victorian terrace houses, really tightly packed into their local communities. Many had outside toilets still, because even though it was this massive machine, it's still tough economically for those on the front line. Like, it's still a working class environment that you're in. Local pubs were like the main source, the main social hub of the town. Working men's clubs, for example, comedians, singers, bingo, kind of that era. Also in the 1960s, Coronation Street started, which is a British soap opera, and very much depicts northern British life. So we're in Hull, which is a portside town, north east Englandish, Midlands north east, and because it's portside, it's huge for fishing industry, and it's right by the North Sea, which is the most really treacherous. It is a horrible sea. We're not talking nice beaches and calm waters. It's really quite icy, cold, ferocious, and trawlers are a kind of boat that are used to catch fish like cod and haddock, and that is the main industry in that town. Like, UK trawlers were working round the clock. If you worked on a trawler, you'd be looking at 84 hours a week. You're looking at being on a ship in zero conditions because you're in the north, you're going towards the Arctic, all of that. It's relentless physical labour. The living conditions that you're in for weeks at a time are cold, cramped. There's not much food, like decent food available, because you're on this ship forever. Because of that, it's not sanitary, so you're quite likely to be ill. Not for much dollar, like we said as well. So this is very much like a lifestyle choice, and it's safe to say you needed a lot of grit. And also there's hardly any daylight, so because you're in the winter up there's not much sunlight. The days are really small, so really brutal, horrible, horrible
That
conditions.
sounds like you would have to be so resilient to work in those conditions. This is all very familiar as somebody who grew up on the North Atlantic coast. We have the Atlantic Sea fishermen, and the conditions, I think they have more daylight, is what I would say. I think the North Sea fishermen they have less daylight and even colder, even more treacherous seas. There's a lot of people injured. Like everybody where I grew up knows somebody who's lost a limb or lost a relative, or it's a demanding job. And as you say, the wages aren't huge for the risk.
Mm. But also, the people on the boats aren't stupid. They know what they're getting into. Like, if their fathers had done it and their fathers' fathers, they kind of knew what was happening. But did they really have a choice, I guess, is the question. So, the stark reality of these conditions hits really hard in 1958 when a trawler called St. Romanus sailed from Hull on the 10th of January, and that was really the last firm contact they ever had with that trawler was on the 10th of January via a radio call. That was the last contact, but the alarm wasn't raised until the 26th of January after a number of failed attempts to contact the ship by
So,
radio.
like nearly 2 weeks, am I getting that right?
Yeah, 100%. This is common practice as well, which is really annoying. There was a policy that they should catch up daily, but they didn't have enough people on the ships, on the radio towers to make that contact daily. So it was quite a common occurrence. And after 2 weeks, that's when you kind of start to panic. It was then discovered that a life raft on the 13th of January had come from St. Romanus that was found by another vessel. And then a search actually began. However, no one was found, and on the 30th of January, the families were told that there was little hope. They're kind of not expecting anything else. So it just got captured by the sea.
My God.
Mm-hmm. Exactly the same time period. So a lot of ships would sail on the same day because it's such a big industry. I think there's 152 ships coming out that port. On the same day, so the 10th of January, the Kingston Peridot also sailed from Hull, had a crew of 20, and did kind of get in touch. So on the 26th of January, they know that the ship, was fishing off the northeast Iceland shore in foul weather. She told another trawler by radio that she was having difficulties with ice buildup on the ship and arranged to move east to join them. No further contact was established, and on the 29th of January, one of her life rafts was washed ashore. After that, debris was then found, and it was indicated that the vessel had sunk. So on the 27th of January, they announced that this had happened. Yeah. So again, really similar time period. So that's like 3 days before St. Romanus was declared lost as well. So really, really short time periods. A lot of this, of what I'm going to talk about today, is just weeks. That's just what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's 2 losses, loads of life. Another ship, Ross Cleveland, sailed on the 20th of January. And this was before those other 2 ships were declared lost. So it was just business as usual. She was bound for the north coast of Iceland as well, but there was 19 people on board this one. The conditions were very poor, and on the 3rd of February, following a weather warning, she makes contact with a little inlet of Iceland's northwest coast, so a little bit of land where a lot of other ships were waiting. They were kind of waiting out the storm there. So they head over to Iceland. When they're there, the captain of the Ross Clevelands attempts to move the ship from a dangerous position to a slightly safer one on the evening of the 4th of February, but the ship was completely overwhelmed by the wind and the sea. It capsized and sank. So that is 3 ships within a month that have sank.
So it sounds like the weather was so unbelievably challenging that all these ships, 150 ships a day, I think you said, are going out of the port. 3 ships being lost in those weather conditions. Although it's not a significant percentage, it's a lot of human lives. We know, like, obviously there's something going on at this point for ship after ship after ship to be struggling like this.
Yeah. Is it the weather, or is it just not okay? And that's what we'll go into. I've got a little quote here of what it was like on Ross Cleveland at that time.
Oh, I'm going over. We are laying over. Help me. I'm going over. Skipper Phil Gray pleaded in a final, desperate message from the Ross Cleveland. Give my love and the crew's love to the wives and families. Oh, that's got me a bit choked up,
It's
Vicky.
a
That's so
hard one.
sad.
It's a
Oh, it's
hard
so
one.
sad.
The next quote is a little bit more detached, so it's like after the fact. That was obviously in the moment when the ship was going over. So, like we said, 58 fishermen have lost their lives, all based in Hull, right? So, all based in this tiny little town. There was one survivor of all three sinkings, and that was a 28-year-old called Harry Edam.
Oh my
He was the
God.
mate of Ross Cleveland, so the final ship, and he managed to make this escape from the vessel. He is still alive today. He still lives in Hull to this day, and he is 85 years old. He
God.
gives a little interview to BBC covering this news, and there's a video, and the footage is of him on a stretcher, like being led out. But he manages to give a little bit of an interview. I've kept the way he speaks in this quote, so it's not proper English, but that's because of the Hull accent,
Like a
basically.
regional
Yeah,
dialect.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So if it sounds a bit weird on your tongue, that's why.
Okay. All right. I'll give it a go. We got a raft organized when a great sea swamped it. Anyhow, we get it organized again and it gets it bailed out. A couple of hours like this young kid had died. About 2 hours after that, the bosun, he died. I had no paddles. She'd washed all the paddles out, so we just kept driving. All I hoped is that we didn't drive out to sea. Anyway, we drove down this fjord and we hit the bottom. I gets out and I pulled the raft up as far as I could up onto the rocks. Harry described how he managed to stumble alone to the refuge of an Icelandic farmhouse. When I got there, it was deserted. I hadn't the energy to kick the door down, so I just waited and went to the back of it to get out of the snow. My God.
I know. So the desperation is just insane. And like I said, this footage of him is him being taken to the mainland on a stretcher with lots of men around him. But one thing really struck me in the video, and that's the final image. And he's got his hand on his chest, and the wedding ring that he's got on his finger is so shiny against the dull of the ship and the clothes and the muddiness and everything. And it just, this shining little gold light, and it just shows that these guys had a family at home. Fishing was an extraordinarily tough industry. It's estimated that more than 6,000 trawler men from Hull alone perished between the years of 1835 and 1980. Like I said, there was 150 trawlers at this port in total. And that's how Hull really got the name the Sad City. It was going through this awful tragedy. It was dubbed by one of the newspapers as the Sad City. The local football team, Hull FC, had minutes of silence at the start of the game. But life needed to press on. Like, fishing needed to be caught, wages needed to be brought in. So the assumption was, let's just go back to normal, head down, carry on. Or did it? So enter these four redoubtable women. Lillian Bilocca, which will be called throughout the story as Big Lil, because that's how she wanted to be called.
Yes, Lil.
Christine Smallbone, Mary Dennis, and Yvonne Blackensop. So they lived on, and in some cases, like Big Lil, were born on Hessel Road in Hull. So one road. Big Lil herself, she was a cod skinner. That was her job. So she was also in the fishing trade. All their partners, fathers, brothers, uncles, and sons were out at sea. They were gone away for weeks at a time. The worry, the pressure to be both parents in those situations was endless, and they were just sick of it. They couldn't sleep, they were sick with worry, fed up with grieving, and why should it be this way? The amount of pressure they were under is just insane.
I'm glad you highlighted that point as well about being both parents, because that doesn't, I mean, being a cod skinner and a parent is hard enough, but coping while your partner is away for weeks at a time in life-threatening conditions, I cannot even imagine.
Especially at this time where society expected families to have two parents. I think today slightly different, like
Mm.
single parent families, blended families, whatever you want to call it. We now live in a world where that is accepted and doable, but there was a pressure on these women, particularly at that time, to step up and be both quote unquote parents in a traditional setting, like in a traditional way that we'd think of a father and mother. We don't think of families necessarily serial box that way anymore. But
No.
at that time, it was an external pressure that is worth noting. This is a quote from Yvonne Blenkinsop, one of the four, talking about how she was feeling at this time.
You wanted to help. You wasn't quite sure what you could do, but you knew you could do something. Everyone spoke in hushed tones, as if you were literally at a funeral. We were all waiting for a miracle, but it didn't happen that way. I was losing my friends left, right, and center. I just wanted to help. Someone had to. We were just crying inside. We were desperate.
Yeah, because it's gutting out the entire town and the entire roads, right? And there is this real sense of helplessness and wanting to do something, but being powerless to do so. Like I said at the start, the deep water fishing industry in the UK is one of the biggest in the world. That means it's incredibly lucrative.
Mm.
They're making tons of money. So why can't they afford safety? On top of this, the laws actually governing the shipping industry, this is the niche. When I said niche earlier, we're talking about fishing laws. So the laws governing the shipping industry hadn't been updated for over 100 years at this point, which made it really easy to cut corners. Okay. So on these ships, there was often not enough crew. There was often not enough radios on the ships.
Mm.
Sometimes there was no radio operator at all, which is what you would expect. At this point, aeroplanes were a thing, and also they had black boxes that they could find. So if something happened on a plane, you could find the black box and work out what was happening. With a ship, that was not the case. You were still waiting for someone to call you, hopefully once a day, but maybe not. They were completely different. Even though that was a new industry, it was so far ahead in terms of safety of one that had been established for centuries. There was not enough medical equipment on board, but also really interested in Yvonne. She noted there's like this toxic culture around the employment of these men on the ship. And there's a really, I'm making you do lots of quotes today, but there's so much because it's like modern history.
If any of them spoke up, they knew they would be in for it, because speaking up would mean losing their job. There was always a surplus of fishermen, so if you spoke up because something was wrong, you'd be blacklegged, and it wouldn't just be from the firm you were sailing from, it would go all along the docks. Doesn't this just remind you of the mining industry? Or, there are so many examples of these industries that have been kind of left to self-regulate. Like, oh, they're the experts, they know what's best. And as you say, the interests of the people who are running and setting policy and maximizing profit and presumably having no human soul whatsoever. It's not, oh, what's best for these people working in these treacherous conditions? What can I do to make it as safe as I can? It's how do I maximize my profit? And if
Yeah.
treating people as a resource that's expendable is how I do it, this is the end result.
Yeah. And the women knew this. The women knew that they were big cats behind wooden tables, like dictators. And they were pissed off. They were angry about it. So they began to protest. Big Lil organised a petition to the firm owning the trawlers for proper safety measures. By signing the petition, it gave the women a way of saying, help us, like, this is not okay, we need help. It was a very emotional thing, all of this. Like, so much anger and desperation and grief just bubbling along and kind of fueling them to do this. The next thing that they did was picket the docks to ensure that all departing ships carried radio operators, which was a big deal. Big Lil even personally stationed herself at the dock to personally inspect all the ships. I can't express what a big deal this was in the 80s because women weren't allowed near the docks. It wasn't their place. Their place was in the kitchen. Their place was on Hessel Road. Their place was at the grocer's. And when Big Lil led a women's march to the dock, less than half of those following her in the march would actually step on the dock. They wouldn't put their feet on there
The
because it had
women
been
themselves.
the women themselves, because it had been ingrained in them. That's not for you. That's not your space. You're
Do you
not allowed to
know,
go there.
if you'll permit a little diversion, I just read A Year of Marvelous Ways, which is set in Cornwall, and it's probably set around this time, maybe a little bit before it. And there's a whole bunch about women's place around boats. And they
Weird.
talk in that book about how traditionally women are, you don't even talk about women on a ship because it messes with the sailors' minds. And
Yeah.
so they are like
Superstitious.
bad, yeah, bad luck, bad omens. So that might be why the women, like if they believed that culturally, like
Yeah.
I would be a problem. I can see why they fell back. But isn't it also convenient that these women are kept at bay and kept away from witnessing the things that are happening when they might have a voice to say, that's not all right. You can't treat people like that.
Yeah. It's misogyny and sexism at the end of the day, isn't it? And there's no way around that. Um, Police got involved in these stations and protests. I didn't put it in because it wasn't a nice photo to look at, but there is a photo of Big Lil being held back by
Uh,
policemen and women of the time because she's so desperate for this ship not to go because she
but
knows
like,
it's not safe.
by what legal right are they stopping her? You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
what law are they enforcing in that moment? It's
I
just
guess
corrupt.
trespassing. I don't know. I don't know.
No, I'm not
It's
having
just for
it.
and by this point, because that is a big deal, to have a petition, to have a march, and fisher women, like people who traditionally aren't allowed to do these kind of things, it was picking up traction in the media. And that makes it great for us because there's loads of audio and loads of video available. There's this really sweet audio where you can hear Big Lil checking on the
Oh,
ships in the dock. She's like, "Have you got this? Have you got that? Is that right? Da da da." And at the end, she says, "Gosh, sorry." She says, "All the best flowers." Um, that's her not knowing if they'll come back. And it's so, 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 so sweet. Oh my gosh. And all of this and all of what they're doing is coming from a place of such good intent. Like, they just want you to be okay. That's
yeah.
all
Well,
this is.
it's your friends and your neighbors and your spouse and your child and
Mm-hmm.
every man you know is going to be put into this machine. And you're just trying anything you can at great personal cost because it's not just those fishermen who would have been, blackballed for speaking up. She's put her name to this and she works in that industry and she lives in that village.
Yeah,
So
it's
brave.
it's so, so brave. And Big Lil is probably the biggest character of those four women. Because she's straight talking, she's got this larger than life kind of personality, and she embodies this can do spirit, which is Hull, which is working class northern towns. Like I said, it did get picked up by the BBC quite early on. There's a little interview here that I thought we could just toss between us about how she feels in this moment. So I'll be the interviewer if you like. So this is the interviewer talking to Big Lil. Do you think you are doing any good?
Well, we have stopped a ship going without a proper radio operator, so that's a start. It's not about the finish, it's the start.
How much more of this do you intend to do?
The rest of my life.
How do you regard yourself, Mrs. Biloka, as sort of a suffragette?
Don't be daft.
Yeah, don't be daft. All she's thinking is, I want my boys safe. Like, she's not
Yeah.
thinking beyond that. It's just, I want them safe and I want them well. People are pressing stuff on her, and she's just like, oh my God, just let me make sure this is okay.
Yeah, it sounds like she's sort of saying, it's not about me, obviously. It's,
Mm.
yeah.
And also that whole, and that might lead into the misogyny that we were talking about earlier, that she sees suffragettes as a bad thing, as a
Mm.
against the grain, as the making change, messing in stuff that isn't belonging to you kind of thing. Maybe she doesn't identify herself with that. It's a very interesting feminism kind of subplot that we could go
Mm.
into. Um, so it's all this extra attention and the BBC and the newspapers that actually dub the four women the Headscarf campaign, which leads to their name, the Headscarf Revolutionaries, because headscarves were so popular with working women in the 1960s. And the pictures that we'll put up on the socials are so of that time. It's like, it's nice. It's nice to look at that time, I would say.
It just fills me with love because I'm seeing my grandmother and I'm seeing my aunties, and
Yeah.
it's such a lovely, even coming from a different country, it's such a lovely image of that day. It puts them bang in your mind
Yeah.
where they are in history.
100% with their big long coats and their little
Yeah,
court heels.
the
Amazing.
necklace.
Ah,
Yeah.
the attention and the organisation wasn't always welcomed. So this is a really frustrating couple of facts I'm going to spit at you now.
Hmm.
Yvonne Blenkinsop was chosen to lead the Hessel Road Committee along with the other three. The committee was leading to unprecedented meetings with the trawler owners, so they were actually getting somewhere.
Okay.
Like I said, the speed of this is insane. So this meeting happened before the third ship even went down. So you know that
Oh,
short month I was talking about earlier, they were already
yeah.
gaining momentum before the Ross Cleland, the final ship, was in trouble. I think it was the emotion that led to that real quick organisation, and then the news followed and it kind of built and amplified. However, it was incredibly hard to organise any kind of reform or unionisation of the men because they were all over the place. Like, it's really hard to have a union meeting when they're all at sea, like bobbing along doing their thing. So they did get pushback. So pushback from the trawlers, you'd expect, because I don't want to spend all my money on this. But what they probably didn't expect pushback from was the fishermen themselves. The fishermen themselves were pissed off that women were being involved in this. They were like, get out. This has got nothing to do with you. I know what I signed up for. And they were not appreciating any kind of help, which is internalized misogyny. We know that, but we didn't have the words at the time. Also, the public didn't like it either, that they're pushing changes. We should be grateful for the industry that we've got. They got so much pushback. Big Lil received death threats from trawler owners and the public via post and Instagram. Yvonne Blenkinsop was punched in the face by a man in a restaurant because she was getting involved in something that was seen as none of their business.
My God.
Women were interfering in a man's world.
That's insane.
Insane. Punched
From the
in the
people who
face.
are going to benefit
Yeah.
at no risk to themselves. All you have to do is just stay out of it and let her
It's
work.
infuriating. It's just, and how are you meant to carry on with that? If I got punched in the face, I would be like, no, I don't think this is worth it. I don't
This
know.
is, I guess it just goes to show, as you say, that entrenched misogyny, that entrenched urge to be a bootlicker to the
Yeah.
boot that's standing on your neck. What the hell is that? Why are you so cowed that you are actively attacking people who are trying to make your life safer and better?
100%. There's a quote here from a retired skipper called Ken Knox, who was not in favour of the women.
My God. As retired skipper Ken Knox said, "You took danger as part of life. I was brought up into it from leaving school." Oh,
Yeah.
Ken, there's enough danger without
Ken.
adding in inadequate safety equipment. Do you know what I mean? Like, the sea is dangerous enough. Don't worry. Nobody's
100%.
questioning your manhood here.
I know, it is like ego,
Mm,
isn't it?
macho.
The men were also worried that these new measures would mean less ships could go out and mean less fishing and ultimately less wages. None of this deterred these women, none of it. So really soon after the announcement of the petition, it got 10,000 signatures, which meant 10,000 people, mainly women, were calling for reform. Like I said, they also did a march on the dock. They also met with the trawler owners, and the momentum was just coming and coming and building and building, and Big Lil's out there leading it all. And what do you do when you've got all that momentum? You take it straight to the door of number 10.
Yes.
I
Go
know.
on.
It's so cool. So this is Harold Wilson's Labour government, which was very revolutionary anyway at the time. It doesn't matter. I was going to talk about the OU, but it doesn't matter. And they tried to force the government to take action. So they rock up there with their little scroll of signatures. And as I'm sure you can imagine, when they got to Westminster, they wouldn't take no for an answer. When Big Lil spoke to the press about what is she doing in London, and also this is the thing, we're in London. They are not on home turf anymore. This is shiny, swinging London that we spoke about at the top. But also it's Westminster, which is like our political hubbub of London. It is stuffy. It is old-fashioned even today, let alone when it was then.
Maybe a bit of snobbery as well, like
Oh
looking
my
down on
God.
northern people has been an issue for the
Yeah,
ruling South in the past and now.
massively. The only, I guess, saving grace was that I think Harold Wilson is the only PM not to have a degree. I think he didn't get a degree and still managed to become. He's very like old school Labour.
So I think maybe what you were going to before when you decided not to dip into a sort of side thing, and maybe what you're going to with that is that she had reason to think this guy might listen, he might understand me.
I think whoever it was, she would have gone down with.
Go
It
on,
wouldn't have.
Lil.
Can you imagine her against Thatcher?
Yeah, actually,
100%.
fair play.
Yeah,
Yep,
go for it, mate.
true.
Yeah. Yvonne talks about how Westminster just stank of whiskey, which is this old school boys club vibes and, like you said, sleazy kind of thing. It is a million miles away from Hassel Road and their kitchens, or even the docks, which was too big a step for some women. You know what I mean? It is a million miles away. But what does Lil say when asked about what is it going to take for you to win?
If I can get satisfaction, then I'm prepared to come home. But if I don't get satisfaction, I will be at that Wilson's house, private house, till I do get satisfaction in some shape or form.
Yes, Big Lil. Woohoo. They're raucous and their media and their hevel worked. The women met with the ministers from the Board of Trade and the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, and they listed out a ton of demands. I think it was I can't remember how many Yvonne said in the interview, but loads and loads of demands. And they were calling it the Fisherman's Charter, basically. They were like, this is what we want. Yvonne said, no one was going to put me off in that. I was going to make every one of those points that I wanted to purely for the safety of the fishermen. And she was like, they're not going to interrupt me. And she said that before she started her list. She was like, you are not going to interrupt me. I'm going to read my list. And they laughed at her. She also called them petal. Now listen, petal. I don't know if they were laughing at petal or if the idea of these women there. We don't know.
Just getting this formidable woman with these really serious things to talk about. And I'm imagining Sarah Millican's voice in my head. That kind of, like really sweet lilting northern with petal and flower and,
Yeah.
but you know instinctively when you meet somebody like that, you do not mess around with them. That is
Yeah,
a
I wouldn't dare.
formidable woman.
Yeah. And just like I wouldn't dare, I just want to apologise that we do know there is a difference between Newcastle and Hull.
Yeah,
Sarah
sorry,
Millican
this is me
according.
being American and talking about northern
We don't want
accents
to
as though they're
offend
all of a
anyone.
piece. Yep, no, fair play. I'll wear that. Sorry.
No, don't apologise at all. It's grit, isn't it? They've got this grit.
Yeah,
All northern people
with
have got this grit, which is amazing.
a sweet exterior, but
Yes,
underneath is this iron core.
100%. They even met with the Prime Minister Harold Wilson during this trip, like, it all happened. So they meet with the ministers. 4 hours later, 4 hours after this meeting where she's calling ministers petal, right, Yvonne is, the government, the trawler owners and the union announced that everything on their list was okay. They're going to go and do it. That included radio equipment would now become compulsory. Ships would be fully crewed and not allowed to leave without a full crew. They had to check all the vessels before leaving the port. They were going to put improved equipment in. They were also going to introduce something called a mothership, which is a medical ship kind of following the trawlers, full of medical equipment that would accompany the fleet and would supervise the operations of the other ships in the fleet. And on top of all this, Cara, it was effective immediately.
Isn't that interesting? What does it suggest to you that they were compelled to agree with every point immediately.
I don't know. I don't know if it's the timing because at this time the news of the final ship, the Ross Cleveland, was
Right.
coming out. So I don't know if they were like, look at this.
Right.
Like,
Like the evidence speaks for
yeah,
itself. And
this is because you're not doing
you
anything.
know you're doing wrong. You
Yeah.
know it. For
Yeah.
you to kind of like roll over and go, oh, all right then.
Hmm.
They done got caught, is what happened there. And yeah, good for her for pressing it because they were
Yeah.
never doing it on their own.
They had achieved more in about 3 weeks than men of this country had managed to achieve in over 100 years.
Yeah, no reform in 100 years. 4 hours later with these women,
Bam.
it's taken care of.
It's mad. It's mad and
When you're right,
exciting and
you're right. Good
cool.
for
Yeah.
them.
100%. And the press, I think, was another big thing. Also, their just grit and determination and attitude. I think if they'd come in nicey, can we just talk about this for a second? The demanding aspect and the formidable
And
aspect
yeah,
of
not
them.
being cowed by violence, not being cowed by threats or attacks. Like
Yeah.
they knew what they had to do.
New regulations came in and led to a huge increase in safety. Not only are we improving the lives of those men on the ships, we're improving the lives of everyone in their immediate circle, but also those women throughout all these weeks had gone through a huge transformation. And I think this quote was from Mary, one of the four, about how she felt this whole experience had impacted her.
I was never quite the same again, and I think the other women in the campaign have said more or less the same. That for them it was a sort of new awakening as well as a campaign. We were not a women's movement. We were purely campaigning for our menfolk away at sea. But in doing so, it did help a lot of us find our own identity. And then you can never quite go back and be the same as you were before.
Yeah, she says they're an identity, a meaning and empowerment. Like if you not even allowed to step foot certain places in your town to changing profoundly the lives of hundreds and hundreds of people.
Mm.
That's quite a good feeling, I imagine. It's quite exciting. So they all head back to Hull and they just carry on with their lives. There were repercussions of their decisions. I think this is really important to know. I ummed and ahed whether we'd keep this in, but here we go. So Big Lil, she lost her job because of all of this. She was working at Watson Street Fish Merchant, and she took 3 weeks without leave for the campaign because she was just so driven by it. And she didn't get the leave approved. So she was sacked and she was blacklisted and she never worked in the fishing industry again. She was completely shunned. The industry she helped build and thrive and improve, she was completely blacklisted.
Isn't that interesting? So it's like their actions say, yeah, you were right. But then after the fact, they're like, but we don't want to know you.
It makes you think that the government told the trawlers what to do.
Mm.
Like the trawlers were never really on board. That's
No.
what it makes you feel like, doesn't it? It took her the next 2 years to find someone who would hire her, and only then it was really low menial work. She was never on that earning par again, and she died at the age of 59 in 1988. Christine Jensen, another of the four, later served on the committee of the British Fishermen's Association. She was a lifelong campaigner. She campaigned for redundancy to pay for trawler men who had previously been paid by the Ministry of Defence for reporting sightings of Russian warships. So there was like a political aspect to that, which was really interesting. She was really prominent in union memberships, and she founded an organisation called STAN to help preserve fishing heritage. She was also awarded an OBE by the monarchy. Then you've got Mary Dennis. She divorced in the 1970s and became a school nurse. She actually went to Eton College where she looked after Princes William and Harry when they attended as well. And then Yvonne Bleckenstock, she lived in Hessel all her life, and her daughter is a care worker and actually helped fellow Headscarf Revolutionaries Mary Dennis in her final hours.
Oh.
She was also the third woman in more than 130 years to be granted the honorary freedom of the city of Hull.
That's really satisfying that in the,
Hmm.
in the fullness of time, their contribution was seen for what it was.
There's loads of stuff that they've done as well, which is amazing. So more recently, Big Lil, there's been a statue of her unveiled, like a sculpture. Each of the women got a memorial bench near Hessel Road. Um, there's also a blue plaque for Big Lil. Quite recently, Hull was the city of culture in the UK. So because of that, they were included in lots of memorial type of things. So each of the women have a plaque unveiled in the city. Maxine Peake off the telly. Yeah, she's written a play about all this
Oh,
called The Last Testament.
I love it. I was just thinking there was that movie about the automotive industry and the women who went on strike and so on around the same sort of time period. And I thought this would be an amazing movie. So I love
It
that
would.
there's a play. That's so cool.
There is a play, and the rights to the story have been sold for potential TV and film adaptation.
Yes.
They were sold a
Yes.
long time ago, so I don't know what's happening. But it's really interesting you say that. Earlier when I was saying I flick through Instagram sometimes to try some inspiration, the video that led me here was one woman saying, "Look, this reel is for some Hollywood movie director. I have got a story for you." And then she went into it. So there
Yes,
definitely is
please.
something in there, isn't there? There's
I mean,
definitely like a
everybody's
Calendar
different,
Girls
but
vibe. Something's in
exactly. I
there.
don't need another Spider-Man movie. Let's have this,
Hmm.
please. Let's put some money
Original
into this.
stories.
Yeah, true story.
There's also loads of beautiful murals around the city of the women, on community centres, on houses, and they're just a reminder of the sheer grit and the heartbreak that it took to lead to these amazing things. There was also an official inquiry into the ships. We love an inquiry here in the UK, of the ships that were lost at sea, but that took a whole year. And the things that were in the inquiry were basically the same as what Big Lil and the Headscarf Revolutionaries were campaigning for. That inquiry took 15 months, so it was published in May 1969. This was 15 months after Big Lil and the guys had achieved their goal.
I can't do the math, but I wonder how many lives
In
would have
those
been in
15, yeah,
jeopardy
exactly.
in those 15 months. So
Mm,
just goes to show.
yeah. The in 2002, interesting little addition to wrap up on is there the camera went down 100 meters down the sea off the Ford where Ross Cleveland sank, and it was filmed by a mini submarine for a BBC documentary. And the wreckage kind of confirmed that it was due to the buildup of ice on the
Oh,
superstructure that contributed to the sinking. So it was a health and safety related thing, and it just shows that what the women did was so needed, and what they pushed through, and their determination, and their just almost like their innocence in a way. They were like, no, we're going to go and fix this. Like, there
yeah,
was
like
no concern. They were just
what's
like,
right
off we
is
go.
right.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Oh, God.
These women did, in fact, change history for hundreds of fishermen and their families.
That is incredible, Vicky. I loved
It's a
hearing
cool
about
story,
this.
right?
So good and
Yeah.
so moving and such a testament to like what a person can achieve if they just have a clear, correct goal and stick to it. What an impressive bunch of women.
Yeah, it gives a lot of hope, doesn't it? It gives you a lot of consideration and, yeah, hope for the future and hope for
Yeah.
yourself that you can achieve things, even if sometimes you live in a world that you don't feel like that is possible. So, yeah. So, yes to the Headscarf Revolutionaries.
Superb.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of She Changed History. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Find us on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If you've got any ideas of women you'd like us to cover in a future episode, please comment on the socials or email us at shechangedhistory@gmail.com. Catch you next time.